What's up, everybody? If you're just joining me, it is because uh, we just got cut off by Facebook in real time for using YouTube videos. Yeah, that's right. I'm not allowed to, apparently, even though all the software allows for it, Facebook isn't allowing me to use YouTube videos in my video. And to be honest, I'm just going to go ahead and testify. I've been dealing with some insane suppression from Facebook and Google and YouTube lately. They just aren't letting me reach anybody. It's like, yeah, I can post, but I'm not hitting anyone. And I know that's BS because I've hit hundreds of thousands before in the past. And it's just insane. It's like they're rendering me invisible, and I'm having a really tough time of it. So we are live again. This time I'm only going to play things that I think will not get caught, which is just BS. It's just absolute BS. Just nonsense. Absolute nonsense, Facebook. I'm really just so sick of you. But that being said, guys, we are about 20 minutes out from the launch of the first the only vice presidential debate of 2020, which is crazy because they get to rule for 4 years. So you get one, really? Okay. Whatever excuses these parties have is just a joke. Yep, Facebook just gave me another notification. My other live is completely blocked. I literally just broadcasted for 30 minutes playing music and having an experience with all of you. So that's ridiculous. And again, also my Instagram also being blocked out, Facebook blocked out. They just censored me for another 30 days without an explanation, by the way. Didn't give me the reason, the picture, the comment, nothing. Didn't tell me anything. Sony Music Entertainment has now claimed that video. Wow, that was fast. Look at how real time, literally within a minute or two, Sony Music Entertainment and Facebook are all over me for using a YouTube video. Like, wow, you guys are really in touch with what I'm doing. That was so quick. Anyway, Zuckerberg, I see right through you, buddy. I know what you're doing. And that's why I'm going viral on TikTok and not Facebook, because TikTok isn't Facebook. So check out my addresses down here, please. Do the due diligence. But I'm going to show you a video that I made with my friend Rami. That is my chief campaign commercial right now. I'm really proud of it. I'm going to go ahead and hide.
Hello. I, of course, am Satan, and I come to you today to endorse both Donald Trump and Joe Biden for president. Now, I know what you're thinking, that I can't do that. Well, guess what? I can. Because I'm Satan. Oh, the lesser of two evils. It's all evil, and I love it. It doesn't matter who wins, because I always win. Well, back to my hellscape and tormenting the souls of the damned. Have a happy vote, America.
Yeah. So that's the commercial. And so some things that I wanted to talk about before these corporate puppets start going here in the next 15 minutes. The biggest ones are over here. So let me show you this. The first one is going to be the national debt. I'm going to actually, let me shrink me. It's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. So since the first presidential debate, that has hit 27 trillion. We were at 26 and something during the first debate. We just hit 27 trillion. I've been saying 27 trillion and the ramp up to 27 trillion, but we officially just hit 27 trillion, and we're already at 23 billion dollars worth of debt just in the last couple days since I saw that we passed 27. So that's the national debt, guys. I mean, I have to show you that so you get an idea of like how insane this is that Trump would claim that he's, making America great again. Like, first off, we were never great. We've been in debt. We've been oppressing people. We've done horrible things to many countless people, even just the Iraqis and the Afghanis, not even just within the last 20 years, Mexicans and immigrants on the southern border, children in cages. I could keep going, but the situation is pretty bleak. And these guys just keep trying to paint this rosy picture. And really, Democrats are just a Pepsi Cola to the Coca Cola of the Republicans. Really, just another cancerous soda that will rot your teeth and make your teeth fall out with some cancer. So our teeth are falling out. We have cancer, and we need to stop drinking soda. You can try drinking seltzer water or something. You know what I mean? Just anything else. Hi, I'm anything else. I'm also seltzer water. I could be tea if you like, maybe some almond milk. Who knows? But I'm not Coca-Cola, and I'm not Pepsi Cola either. So I'm on another planet, basically, in terms of how I see things. There's one more link that I wanted to show you. Let's go over here again. And I'm going to hide me. And I want you to just soak this in, guys. I want you to just soak the link I'm about to show you in. This is from mappingpoliceviolence.org, okay? Check this out. So out of control, absolutely freaking out of control. I don't know if there's playing sound or if I'm able to speak over that while it's happening, but I'm going to get set up for the debate here. We launch in 12 minutes. Get your food, get your stuff, get your drinks, chill with me. I'm going to live react to these guys. Boom. Here they are. 11 minutes and 27 seconds. All right, guys. So get your popcorn, get your drinks, get what you got to get, but get ready, okay?
to make our voices heard and our
All right,
presence
guys, any
known,
minute here. We are.
and the hope that we recognize the power and
Supposedly, it's begun. I'm trying to figure out how I can stay live with you while it goes. So let's hide that and see if it comes back.
process for many students. We have
We
emphasized
have
how very
emphasized
important
how
it
very
is to be a
important it
part
is
of
to
an
be a part
informed,
of an
involved
informed,
citizenry.
involved citizenry.
Ayana offered
Ayana
this
offered
message from
this
students here
message
at the
from
U
students here at the
to make
U
our voices heard
and
and
our
our
All right, guys,
presence
any minute here. We are.
and the hope that we recognize the
worldwide
power
know
and
that
election
Supposedly,
processes
it's
is
begun. I'm trying to figure out
we are
how
all
I can
citizens
stay
we are
of
live.
all
humankind,
citizens of humankind.
and our chief role as
And our
such is
chief
to
role as
tailor
such is
the
to
world to
tailor
be more
the world to
ethical
be
than
more
the one we grew
ethical
up
than
in,
the one we grew up
in order to
in order to
avoid complicity
avoid
in governmental
complicity in
injustice.
governmental
It is
injustice.
our
It is our
responsibility to vote for
responsibility to
just
vote for
outcomes
just
within our own
outcomes within
respective
our own
structures.
respective
It is
structures.
our
It is our
responsibility to be commonly
responsibility to be
decent.
commonly decent.
From all of us at the
From
University
all
of
of us at the
Utah, our
University of
very
Utah,
best
our
wishes to
very
Vice
best
President
wishes to
Mike
Vice
Pence
President Mike
and
Pence
Senator
and
Kamala
Senator
Harris this
Kamala
evening.
Harris this
And my
evening.
deepest
And my
appreciation
deepest
to all who
appreciation
helped
to all
plan
who
and
helped
prepare
plan
for
and
tonight,
prepare for
from our
tonight,
campus,
from our
the Utah
campus,
Debate
the Utah
Commission,
Debate
and the
Commission,
Commission on
and the
Presidential
Commission on
Debates.
Presidential
Thank
Debates.
you all,
Thank you
and
all,
again,
and
warmest
again,
welcome to the
warmest
University
welcome
of
to the
Utah.
University of Utah.
Here we go. I'm going to dip out for a minute. All right, guys. While we're waiting, obviously, you know, Mike Pence has spent the better part of the last 4 years just basically copy paste repeating everything Donald Trump says. He's clearly, you know, a what I would call a conservative fascist. He talks more about the plight of his own people than he does about anyone else.
First print journalist
Print
to be the
journalist
solo
to be
moderator
the
of
solo
one of the general
moderator of one
election
of the general
debates.
election debates.
Washington Bureau Chief of
Washington Bureau
USA
Chief
Today,
of
Susan
USA
Page.
Today, Susan Page.
Go get him, Page.
Go get him, Harry.
Hey, welcome.
Hey, welcome.
And congratulations, you
And
have scored the most
you have scored
exclusive
the most
tickets
exclusive tickets
in the United States. Hamilton
in
has
the United
nothing
States.
on the
Hamilton
Commission
has
on
nothing
Presidential
on the
Debates
Commission on Presidential
when it
Debates
comes to
when it
exclusive
comes
tickets.
to exclusive tickets.
I want to offer a
I want
special
to offer a
welcome
special
to
welcome to
Vice President Pence's
Vice
family,
President Pence's
I think
family,
is there,
is
and to
and
Senator
to
Kamala
Senator
Harris's family
Kamala
on this
Harris's
side,
family
and
on
most
this side,
especially to my
and most
bosses,
especially to my
who are seated
bosses
right up
who
there,
are
and
seated
I'm
right
very
up
glad
there,
that they
and I'm
came
very glad that
and
they
joined us.
came
My bosses from
and joined us.
USA
My
Today
bosses from USA
and
Today
from Gannett.
and from Gannett.
We're glad that you're
We're
here.
glad that you're here.
But this debate
But
is
this
not
debate
about you,
is not about
and it's
you,
not about
and
me.
it's not
It's
about
about the
me.
millions of
It's about the
Americans
millions of
who are going to be
Americans
watching
who are
it.
going to be watching
And
it.
that's why I'm going to ask
And
you
that's
for
why
your
I'm going to
help.
ask you for
I'm
your
going to
help.
ask you
I'm going to
for your
ask you
silence.
for your silence.
I'm going to ask you during the
I'm going to ask
debate
you
not
during
to
the debate
cheer
not to
or to
cheer
boo
or to
or to
boo
hiss
or to
or to
hiss
laugh,
or to laugh
because that is
because
distracting
that
for the
is
people
distracting
we
for
are
the
really
people we are really
staging this debate
staging this
to
debate
reach.
to
There will be
reach.
two
There
times
will
when
be
you can
two times when
applaud.
you can
That will be
applaud.
when I
That will
announce
be
the two
when I
candidates on
announce
the
the two
stage. They'll
candidates on
come
the
on the stage
stage. They'll come on the stage
simultaneously. That'll be a
simultaneously.
time to
That'll be a
applaud.
time to
And then
applaud.
applaud
And
again
then
at the
applaud
very end of
again
the
at the
debate.
very end of the
But if you
debate.
could,
But
if you could keep
restrain
your
your
enthusiasm.
enthusiasm.
You know, I think we
between those
could
two
probably
times,
put
I
that
would
on that
appreciate it.
and
And
just
if you
keep
could send me
talking.
a little
So,
good karma,
Mike Pence
that would
is
also be
honestly
appreciated.
just a
But quietly.
horrendous,
I'm going now
fraudulent
to sit down and get
puppet,
settled.
right? This
And
guy
turn my back
has
to you, but not in a
essentially
rude
just
way.
copy paste
And I'll
repeated,
see
like I
you
said, everything
on the
Donald
other
Trump has
side.
said for the
Thanks
last
again
4
for being
years.
here.
And it's really just been an abysmal mess. We're, like I showed you, $27 trillion in debt. The war on terror is still going. You know, they haven't eliminated terror. They want to claim ISIS is gone, but ISIS is still there. All the problems of the Middle East are still there. They're not. Everyone knows this too, especially the European leaders. The European leaders all know this, and they just laugh at them. So if you want to look up something entertaining, you know, watch when Mike Pence goes to Europe and starts talking to the European leaders. They do not applaud him. He is not liked in Europe, just like Donald Trump is not liked in Europe. We're not liked in a lot of places because of the way Donald Trump has done things. And Kamala Harris, you know, she is. Let's talk about the other side of the coin here. She is not exactly a goody two shoes. She's not exactly a progressive. She is a neoliberal. I was living in Salt Lake City, by the way. If I had still been living there, I'd be actually at the site there, probably protesting, especially against Mike Pence. But Kamala Harris, she's definitely not clean. She's got a lot of police state in her. She's, you know, cop Mala, right? So there's just a really sketchy history there where she put a lot of people in jail, a lot of people of color in jail for the war on drugs, which is failed and nonsensical. Helped put us into debt, like I showed you, $27 trillion in debt. That's the war on drugs and the war on terror, almost like that's side by side. That's what that money is, basically. But any minute here, we're coming out in 4 minutes and 50 seconds. So so Kamala Harris, she is really for the war on drugs. She's really for the police state, and even though she's a person of color, she doesn't have the greatest record of throwing down for equal rights and really just progressive independent thinking, aka cannabis busts and all the other things she did as a prosecutor or DA aren't really legitimate at all. But that being said, on a fundamental level, I do think that she's better for the country than Mike Pence because women deserve the right to control their own bodies. That's not the government's right at all. It's so funny how the far right likes to talk about government tyranny and then execute government tyranny while they're complaining about it. You know, they want to control women's bodies. Donald Trump wants to punish women for getting an abortion. It's just ridiculous. It's absolutely fucking ridiculous. So on a fundamental level, I think Kamala is better than Pence on that, just as Biden is better than Trump on that. But again, that's just one of those issues that's so fundamental, so foundational that it's like a lot of stuff goes under that rug and doesn't get discussed, like how both parties are responsible for the $27 trillion debt, not just the Republicans. Obama handed him a $19 trillion debt. It's now $27 trillion. That's $8 trillion in 4 years, guys. We're looking at another, it'll be at $40 trillion by the time he gets out of there. That's my guess. His job is to rack that debt up. That's his job. Are we still live? Is it live? Seems like it is. All right, yeah, they're still going. I thought the clock disappeared. Anyway, so yeah, debt is like the number one issue because everything that we see happening is to distract us from this basically collapse in real time. We're at $27 trillion worth of national debt. That's the largest national debt in the history of the earth. And yet here is this con man going, this is the greatest economy, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not, dude. No, it's not. No, it's not. We are falling in real time, and he wants to pretend otherwise. But the blues do that too. The Democrats pretend as also. So I'm always suspicious of anybody pretending like we're not in $30 trillion worth of debt because we are. And we're going to be at 40 in no time the way things are going. Just a quick note. Trump did put Rothschild and Wall Street on the cabinet, okay? Wilbur Ross, Secretary of Commerce from Rothschild of 24 years. Steve Mnuchin of Goldman Sachs and Wall Street, Secretary of Treasury, right? And what's even more suspicious about Trump's cabinet is the fact that he also put Alexander Acosta as the Secretary of Labor. Whole bunch of other guys. He put Exxon at the head of state, Rex Tillerson. That had to change like 3 times. He's changed every seat in that cabinet like 10 times, except for Ross and Mnuchin and a couple others. Everything's been cycling in and out. He can't hold on to anybody. So Rothschild and Wall Street are on Trump's cabinet right next to Alexander Acosta, who happens to be Epstein's attorney. It's also a fact that Trump used Alan Dershowitz and Kenneth Starr for his impeachment defense, and they are Epstein's attorneys as well. So for all the lip flapping of the far right and the Republicans, they are directly connected to this pedophile ring, and I think it's incredibly suspicious that all of Trump's people and Trump himself cover up having Rothschild, Wall Street, and a pedophile attorney on his cabinet, and they don't want to talk about it. So pay attention, guys. I do my research. I know what I just said is true. Trump's cabinet is Wall Street. It is a pedophile attorney and a whole bunch of other con people. This is the swamp. You're looking at the swamp, and it's both parties. So initially when Trump said this was the swamp, he was right, and then he made it the swamp again, which, of course. Any minute now we're going to see these guys walk out on stage. Now, once again, I'm going to point out what I think are the 5 major controlling influences in U.S. politics. Wall Street, Big Pharma, military defense,
Good evening.
Israel,
From the University of Utah,
Fossil
in Salt Lake
fuels.
City,
In Salt Lake
welcome
City.
to the first
Welcome
and
to the
only
first
Vice
and
Presidential
only
debate
Vice
of
Presidential
2020,
debate of 2020.
sponsored by the
Sponsored
Nonpartisan
by the
Commission on
Nonpartisan
Presidential
Commission on
Debates.
Presidential Debates.
I'm Susan Page of
I'm
USA
Susan
Today.
Page of USA
It is
Today.
my honor
It is
to
my
moderate this
honor to
debate,
moderate
an
this
important
debate,
part
an
of our
important part
democracy.
of our democracy.
In Kingsbury Hall
In
tonight, we
Kingsbury
have a
Hall
small
tonight, we have a
and socially
small
distant
and socially
audience,
distant
and we've
audience,
taken extra
and we've taken
precautions
extra
during this
precautions
pandemic.
during this pandemic.
Among other things,
Among
everyone
other
in the
things,
audience is
everyone in the
required to wear a
audience is
face
required
mask,
to wear
and
a
the
face
candidates
mask, and the
will be
candidates
seated 12
will
feet
be seated
apart.
12 feet apart.
The audience is
The audience is
enthusiastic about their
enthusiastic
candidates,
about their
but they've agreed to
candidates, but they've
express that
agreed to
enthusiasm
express that
only
enthusiasm
twice,
only
at the
twice,
end of the debate
at the end of the
and
debate,
now when
and
I
now
introduce the
when I
candidates.
introduce the candidates.
Please welcome
Please welcome California Senator Kamala Harris and Vice President Mike Pence.
Thank you.
and Vice
Senator
President
Harris
Pence,
and
thank
Vice
you for
This is
President
going to be
Pence, thank
good.
you for being here.
These are
We're
heavy hitters
meeting
right
as
here.
President
meeting
Trump
as
and the
President
First Lady
Trump and the
continue
First
to
Lady
undergo
continue
treatment
to
in
undergo
Washington
treatment in
after
Washington
testing positive
after
for
testing positive for
COVID-19.
COVID-19.
We send our thoughts and
We
prayers
send
to
our
them
thoughts
for
and
their
prayers
rapid
to
and
them for
complete
their rapid
recovery
and complete
and for the recovery of
and for the
everyone
recovery of
afflicted by
everyone
the
afflicted
coronavirus.
by the coronavirus.
The two campaigns and the
The two
Commission on
campaigns and the
Presidential Debates
Commission
have
on
agreed to the
Presidential Debates
ground
have
rules
agreed
for
to the
tonight.
ground rules for
I'm
tonight.
here to
I'm
enforce
here
them
to
on
enforce
behalf of the
on
millions of
behalf of the
Americans who
millions
are
of
watching.
Americans who are watching.
One note, no one in
note,
either
no one in
campaign
either
or at the
campaign
commission
or at the
or anywhere
commission
else
or
has been
anywhere
told in
else
advance
has been
what
told in
topics I'll
advance
raise
what topics
or
I'll
what
raise
questions I'll
or what
ask.
questions I'll ask.
This 90-minute debate will
This
be divided
90-minute
into
debate will be
9
divided
segments
into
of about
9
10 minutes
segments of
each.
about 10 minutes
I'll begin a
each.
segment by
I'll
posing
begin
a
a segment by
question
posing
to
a
each of
question
you,
to
sometimes the
each of
same
you.
question,
Sometimes the same
sometimes a
question,
different
sometimes a
question on the
different
same
question
topic.
on the same topic.
You will then have 2
You
minutes
will
to
then have
answer
2 minutes to
without
answer
interruption
without
by
interruption
me or the
by
other
me
candidate.
or the other candidate.
Then we'll take 6
Then
minutes
we'll
or
take
so
6
to
minutes or
discuss the
so
issue.
to discuss the issue.
At that point,
At
although
that
there will
point,
always
although
be
there
more to
will
say,
always be more
we'll
to
move
say,
on to the
we'll
next
move
topic.
on to the next topic.
We want a debate
We want a
that is
debate
lively.
that is
Without
lively.
But
Trump, this
Americans
should go pretty
also
smooth.
Also
deserve a
deserve
discussion
a
that is
Trump makes it
civil.
impossible.
civil.
These are
These
tumultuous
are
times,
tumultuous
but we
times,
can and
but
will
we can
have a
and will
respectful
have a
exchange
respectful
about the
exchange
big issues
about the big
facing our
issues
nation.
facing our nation.
Let's begin with the
Let's
ongoing
begin with the
pandemic
ongoing
that has
pandemic
cost our
that has
country
cost our
so
country
much.
so much.
He tried to make eye contact
Senator
with you. See that?
Harris,
Senator
the
Harris,
coronavirus
the
is not under
coronavirus is
control.
not under control.
Over the past week,
Over the past
Johns Hopkins
week,
reports
Johns
that
Hopkins reports
39
that
states have had
39
more
states have
COVID
had
cases
more
over the
COVID
past 7
cases over the
days
past 7
than in the
days
week before.
than in the week before.
9 states have
9
set new
states
records.
have set new records.
Even if a vaccine is
Even if a
released
vaccine
soon,
is
the next
released soon, the
administration
next
will face
administration
hard
will face
choices.
hard choices.
What would a Biden
What would a
administration
Biden
do in January
administration
February that a Trump administration wouldn't do? Would you impose new lockdowns for businesses and schools and hotspots? A federal mandate to wear masks? You have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
Thank you, Susan.
Thank you, Susan.
Well,
Without
the
interruption.
American people have witnessed what is the greatest failure of any presidential administration in the history of our country. And here are the facts. 210,000 dead people in our country in just the last several months. Over 7 million people who have contracted this disease. 1 in 5 businesses closed. We're looking at frontline.
Oh, I can pause it. I think I might do that at select times. Just be ready.
Workers who have been treated like sacrificial workers. We are looking at over 30 million people who in the last several months had to file for unemployment. And here's the thing. On January 28th, the Vice President and the President were informed about the nature of this pandemic. They were informed that it's lethal in consequence, that it is airborne, that it will affect young people,
She's a heavy hitter.
and that it would be contracted because it is airborne. And they knew what was happening and they didn't tell you. Can you imagine if you knew on January 28th, as opposed to March 13th, what they knew, what you might have done to prepare? They knew and they covered it up. The president said it was a hoax. They minimized the seriousness of it.
True.
The president said, you're on one side of his ledger if you wear a mask, you're on the other side of his ledger if you don't. And in spite of all of that, today
She's
they
already
still
winning.
don't have a plan. They still don't have a plan. Well, Joe Biden does. And our plan is about what we need to do around a national strategy for contact tracing, for testing, for administration of the vaccine, and making sure that it will be free for all.
That's an excuse for the launching of a surveillance state. But the Republicans are going to do it too. So that's both parties will do that.
That is the plan that Joe Biden has and that I have, knowing that we have to get a hold of what has been going on, and we need to save our country, and Joe Biden is the best leader to do that, and frankly, this administration has forfeited their right to re-election based on
Thank you,
Thank you,
Senator Harris.
Senator Harris.
Vice President Pence, more than 210,000 Americans have died of COVID-19 since February. The U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population is higher than that of almost every other wealthy nation on Earth. For instance, our death rate is 2.5 times that of Canada next door. You head the administration's coronavirus task force. Why is the U.S. death toll as a percentage of our population higher than that of almost every other wealthy country? And you have 2 minutes to respond without interruption.
Susan, thank you. And I want to thank the Commission and the University of Utah for hosting this event.
Blah, blah, blah.
And Senator Harris, it's a privilege to be on the stage with you. And our nation's gone through a very challenging time this year. But I want the American people to know that from the very first day, President Donald Trump has put the health of America first. Before there were more than 5 cases in the United States, all people who had returned from China, President Donald Trump did what no other American president had ever done. And that was he suspended all travel from China, the second largest economy in the world. Now, Senator Joe Biden opposed that decision. He said it was xenophobic and hysterical. But I can tell you, having led the White House Coronavirus Task Force, that decision alone by President Trump bought us invaluable time to stand up the greatest national mobilization since World War II. And I believe it saved hundreds of thousands of American lives. Because with that time, we were able to reinvent testing. More than 115 million tests have been done today. We were able to see
It's just like, nope.
billions of supplies to our doctors.
He is going to lose this. He's going to lose this.
And we began really before the month of February was to develop a vaccine and to develop medicines and therapeutics and saving lives all along the way. And under President Trump's leadership, Operation Warp Speed, we believe we'll have literally tens of millions of doses.
Don't laugh, Kamala. Don't laugh.
The reality is when you look at the Biden plan, it reads an awful lot like what President
like
Trump
what President
and
Trump and I and our task force have been
every
doing
step
every
of the
step
way.
of the way.
And quite frankly,
When
when I look at
their plan that talks about
advancing
advancing
testing,
testing,
creating new
PPE,
PPE,
developing a vaccine,
it looks a little bit like
it looks a little bit like plagiarism,
which is something Joe
which is
Biden
something
knows
Joe Biden knows a
about.
little bit about.
And I think the American
I think the American people know
this is a president
who has put
Thank you,
health
Vice
of America first, and the American people, I believe with my heart,
can be
Thank you,
proud
Vice
of
President.
the
Thank you, Vice
sacrifices
sacrifices
they
have made
to save
Thank you,
countless
Vice
save
President.
countless American lives.
Senator Harris.
Senator
Would you
Harris,
like to
Oh.
would you like to
Absolutely.
respond?
Whatever the vice president is claiming the administration has done, clearly it hasn't worked. When
Yeah,
you're looking at
clearly.
over 210,000 dead bodies in our country, American lives that have been lost, families that are grieving that loss. And you know, the vice president is the head of the task force. And knew on January 28th how serious this was. And then thanks to Bob Woodward, we learned that they knew about it. And then when that was exposed, the vice president said, when asked, well, why didn't y'all tell anybody? He said, because the president wanted people to remain calm.
Well, let's get.
So I
but-
want to, Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
I have to
I'm
weigh
speaking.
in.
Yeah, you
So
can have
I-
15
You
more
can have
seconds,
15 more
and then we'll give
seconds,
the Vice
and then we'll
President
give the
a chance
Vice
to
So I
President
want to
a
ask
chance.
the American people, how calm were you when you were panicked about where you're going to get your next roll of toilet paper? How calm were you when your kids were sent home from school and you didn't know when they could go back?
Thank you.
How calm
Thank
were
you.
you
When
when
your children
your children couldn't see your parents because you were afraid they could kill
Let's
them?
give Vice President.
Let's give Vice
Pence a
President
chance
Pence
to
a chance to
respond.
respond. Vice President, you have
There's not
1
a day
minute.
gone
to
by
respond.
that I
There's not a
haven't
day
thought
gone
of
by
every
that I
American
haven't
family
thought of
that's
every
lost a
American
loved one.
family that's lost a loved one.
Oh,
And I want all
world's
of you to know
smallest
that
And I want all
violin
of you to
playing
know
for
that
Mike
you are
Pence.
in our hearts
and in our
Oh,
prayers.
it's in your
and in our
hearts,
prayers.
in our
But
prayers.
when you say what the
But
American
when you
people
say
have
what the
done
American
over these
people have
last 8
done
months
over these
hasn't
last 8
worked,
months hasn't worked,
that's a great
that's
disservice.
a great disservice.
The sacrifices
The
the
sacrifices the
American people
American people have made.
I'm referring
The
to
reality,
The reality, if I may finish, Senator.
the
The
reality
reality
is,
is, Dr. Fauci said,
Here we go.
everything that he told the president in the Oval Office, the president told the American people. Now, President
That's
Trump,
a
I will
lie.
tell you, has boundless confidence in the American people.
That's
He
a
always
lie.
spoke
That's
with
a
confidence.
that's a blunt lie.
together.
That's a
But when
piece
you
of
say
shit
it
right
hasn't
there.
It hasn't worked.
When Dr. Fauci,
No,
Dr.
200,000 dead
Fauci
didn't work.
came to us
Came
in the
to us in the
second week of
March.
March. They said if
They
the
said if
president didn't take the unprecedented step of shutting down roughly half of the American economy, that we could lose 2.2 million Americans. But that's the reality.
Thank you.
They also said to us
said
if we
to us,
did everything right, Susan, we could still lose more than 200,000 Americans.
Vice
Now,
President,
one life lost is too many, Susan. But the American people, I believe, deserve credit for the sacrifices that they made, putting the health of their family and their neighbors first, our doctors, our nurses, our first
Thank you, Vice
responders. And I'm going to speak up on behalf of what the American people
Vice
You're an
President,
idiot.
in the front row, in a rose garden event 11 days ago, what seems to have been a super spreader event for senior administration congressional officials.
I just have to pause for a second. Like, bring me up here. This is out of control, guys. I mean, he is just like the most canned, like ridiculously over-rehearsed, fake, like puppetry. You've got to see it. It's just canned puppetry. Do not think that like anything he just said is legitimate. He is a fraud, an absolute fraud. And this guy wants to claim that he's Christian, and he wants to claim that he loves Jesus. And yet he can't even say the words Black Lives Matter. This guy is a piece of shit.
Officials.
No social distancing.
No
New
way.
masks, and now
A cluster of
coronavirus cases among those who were there.
How can you
How can you expect Americans to follow the administration's safety guidelines to protect themselves from COVID
when you at the
White House have not been doing so?
Well, the
Well,
American people
have
demonstrated
demonstrated
over the
over the
last
last 8 months
that when given
that when given the facts,
they're willing
they're willing to put
their
their
families
and their neighbors and people they don't even know first.
President Trump and I have great confidence
in the American people
and
their ability to take that information and put it into practice. In the height of the epidemic, when we were losing a heartbreaking number of 2,500 Americans a day, we surged resources to New Jersey and New York and New Orleans and Detroit. We told the American people what needed to be done, and the American people made the sacrifices. When the outbreak in the Sun Belt happened,
they like sacrificed lives, dipshit.
forward. But the reality is, the work
Horrible.
the President of the United States goes on. A vacancy on the Supreme Court of the United States has come upon us, and the President introduced Judge Amy Coney
I
Barrett.
just want to grab his tie. How do I grab that
If I
tie?
may say, that Rose Garden event. There's been a great deal of speculation about it. My wife Karen and I were there and honored to be there. Many of the people who were at that event, Susan, actually were tested for coronavirus. And it was an outdoor event, which all of our scientists regularly and routinely advise. The difference here is President Trump and I trust the American people to make choices in the best interest of their health. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris consistently talk about mandates, and not just mandates with the coronavirus, but a government takeover of health care, the Green New Deal, all government control. We're about freedom and respecting the freedom of the American people.
Right.
You respect the American people when you tell them the truth. You respect the American people when you have the courage to be a leader speaking of those things that you may not want people to hear, but they need to hear so they can protect themselves. But this administration stood on information that if you had as a parent, if you had as a worker knowing you didn't have enough money saved up, and now you're standing in a food line because of the ineptitude of an administration that was unwilling to speak the truth to the American people.
Sure.
So let's talk about caring about the American people. The American people have had to sacrifice far too much because of the incompetence of this administration. It is asking too much of the people.
Susan,
Too much of the people. It is asking too much of the people. That they would not be equipped with the information they need to help themselves to protect their parents and their children.
Kamala Harris,
Senator Harris, I mean, I'm sorry. No, Senator Harris to me.
For life to get back to normal,
Dr.
Anthony Fauci and other experts say
that
most of the people who can be vaccinated
need to be vaccinated.
But half of
Americans now say they wouldn't take a vaccine.
No way.
Now.
No way.
If the Trump
If the Trump administration approves a vaccine before or after the election,
should Americans
take
it, and would
take
you
it, and would you take it?
If the public health professionals, if Dr. Fauci, if the doctors tell us that we should take it, I'll be the first in line to take it. Absolutely. But if Dr.
Guys, this is the pharmacratic order. You're hearing it. This is it right here. I'm telling you, this is the key central thing that no one really wants to talk about, but they're all on the same side. Big Pharma, Wall Street, this is it. Yeah, you would take Trump's vaccine, Trump's overrushed, untested, unvetted military vaccine from Wall Street. Yeah. Okay. Sure you would, Kamala.
Donald Trump tells us that we should take it, I'm not taking it.
Vice President Pence, there have been a lot of repercussions from this pandemic. In recent days, the President's diagnosis of COVID-19 has underscored the importance of the job that you hold and that you are seeking. That's our second topic tonight. It's the role of the Vice President. One of you will make history on January 20th. You will be the Vice President to the oldest President the United States has ever had. Donald Trump will be 74 years old on Inauguration Day. Joe Biden will be 78 years old. That already has raised concerns among some voters, concerns that have been sharpened by President Trump's hospitalization in recent days. Vice President Pence, have you had a conversation or reached an agreement about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability? And if not, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes.
Well, Susan, thank you.
Although I would like to go back.
I think we need to move on.
Well, thank you, but I would like to go back.
Thank you, but I would like to go back.
The reality is that we're going to have a vaccine, Senator, in record time, in unheard of time, in less than a year.
That's not good.
We have 5 companies in phase 3 clinical trials.
Not good.
And we're right now producing tens of millions of doses. The fact that you continue to undermine public confidence
if
the vaccine emerges during the
You can't rush the vaccine, idiot. And you shouldn't even be using vaccines anyway.
And Senator, I just
Stop
ask
playing
you,
politics with people's lives.
stop playing politics with
The
people's
reality
lives.
is that we
The
will have a
reality
vaccine, we
is
believe,
that we will have a
before the end of
vaccine,
this
we
year.
believe, before
And it
the
will
end
have
of
the
this year.
capacity to
And
save
it will have the
countless
capacity to
American
save
lives and
countless American lives. And
undermining
your continuous
of confidence in
undermining
a vaccine
of
is just
confidence in a
it's just
vaccine is
unacceptable.
just
And let me
it's just
also say,
unacceptable. And let me also say,
is when you talk about
the reality is when you talk
administration,
about failure in this
we actually
administration,
do know what failure looks like.
we actually do know what failure looks like.
It was
in a pandemic.
2009.
It was
Swine
2009.
flu arrived in the United
The
States.
swine flu arrived in
Thankfully,
the United
it
States.
ended up
not being.
This is going to be where he says that the lesser deaths of previous administrations is worse than his 210,000.
as the
lethal.
coronavirus.
What an idiot.
But before the end of the year, when Joe Biden was vice president,
President of the United States,
not
Fuck
7.5
this
million
people contracted the swine flu.
60 million
60 million
Americans
Americans contracted the swine flu.
If the swine flu had been as
If the swine flu had been as lethal as the coronavirus in 2009, when Joe Biden was vice president, we would have lost 2 million American lives.
His own chief of staff,
His own chief of staff, Ron
would
Klain,
say last year
that
it was pure luck,
it was pure luck,
that they did, quote,
everything possible wrong.
And we learned from that.
We learned from that.
They left the strategic national stockpile empty. They left an empty and hollow plan, but we still learned from it. And I think the American people, and I say again, can be proud
Vice President Pence, I'm sorry,
what we have done.
Shut up, man.
Senator, please
Thank you, Vice
stop
President.
undermining confidence.
Blah, blah, blah.
Senator Harris, let me ask you the same question that I asked Vice President Pence, which is, have you had a conversation or reached an agreement with Vice President Biden about safeguards or procedures when it comes to the issue of presidential disability? And if not, and if you win the election next month, do you think you should? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
So let me tell you, first of all, the day I got the call from Joe Biden, it was actually a Zoom call, asking me to serve with him on this ticket was probably one of the most memorable days of my life. I thought about my mother, who came to the United States at the age of 19, gave birth to me at the age of 25 at Kaiser Hospital in Oakland, California. And the thought that I'd be sitting here right now, I know would make her proud, and she must be looking down on this. Joe and I were raised in a very similar way. We were raised with values that are about hard work, about the value and the dignity of public service, and about the importance of fighting for the dignity of all people. And I think Joe asked me to serve with him because I have a career that included being elected the first woman district attorney of San Francisco, where I created models of innovation for law enforcement in terms of reform of the criminal justice system. I was elected the first woman of color and black woman to be elected Attorney General of the state of California, where I ran the second largest Department of Justice in the United States, second only to the United States Department of Justice. And there I took on everything from transnational criminal organizations to the big banks that were taking advantage of homeowners, to for-profit colleges that were taking advantage of veterans. And then, of course, now I serve in the United States Senate as only the second black woman ever elected to the United States Senate. I serve on the Senate Intelligence Committee, where I've been in regular receipt of classified information about threats to our nation and hotspots around the world. I've traveled the world. I've met with our soldiers in war zones. And I think Joe has asked me to serve with him because he knows that we share a purpose which is about lifting up the American people. And after the 4 years that we have seen of Donald Trump unifying our country around our common values and principles.
This is one thing I can't stand about these parties and these puppets, man. They do not directly answer questions. They like to provide all this flowery BS. Answer the question. They are old geezers. They are 70 plus. I am 39, guys. So I am dramatically much more energetic than these old guys. And it's just crazy how they don't want to answer the question because they know that they're really old and that each one of these people could potentially be president. And no one wants to talk about it. They're just avoiding the question.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Neither President Trump nor Vice President Biden has released a sort of detailed health information that had become the modern norm until the 2016 election. And in recent days, President Trump's doctors have given misleading answers or refused to answer basic questions about his health. And my question to each of you in turn is this information voters deserve to know? Vice President Pence, would you like to go first?
Well, Susan, thank you. And let me say, on behalf of the President and the First Lady,
how moved we've all been by the outpouring of prayers and concern for the president. And I do believe it's emblematic of the prayers and the concern that have ushered forth for every American impacted by the coronavirus. But the care the president received at Walter Reed Hospital, the White House doctors, was exceptional. And the transparency that they practiced all along the way will continue.
World's smallest violin right
People
here.
have a right to know about the health and well-being of their president, and will continue to do that. But I'm just extremely grateful and was more than a little moved by the broad and bipartisan support. And Senator, I want to thank you and Joe Biden for your expressions of genuine concern. And I also want to congratulate you, as I did on that phone call, on the historic nature of your nomination.
Thank you.
I never expected to be on this stage 4 years ago, so I know the feeling. But the reality is we've got an election for the American people in the midst of this challenging year. And the stakes have never been higher, but I think the choice has never been clearer.
I want to give Senator Harris a chance to respond to the same question I asked, which is, do voters have a right to know more detailed health information about presidential candidates and especially about presidents, especially when they're facing some kind of challenge?
Absolutely, and that's why Joe Biden has been so incredibly transparent, and certainly by contrast, the president has not, both in terms of health records, but also let's look at taxes. We now know, because of great investigative journalism, that Donald Trump paid $750 in taxes. When I first heard about it, I literally said, "You mean $750,000?" And it was like, no, $750. We now know Donald Trump owes and is in debt for $400 million. And just so everyone is clear, when we say in debt, it means you owe money to somebody. And it'd be really good to know who the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief, owes money to, because the American people have a right to know what is influencing the President's decisions. And is he making those decisions on the best interest of the American people, of you, or self-interest? So, Susan, I'm glad you asked about transparency, because it has to be across the board. Joe has been incredibly transparent over many, many years. The one thing we all know about Joe, he puts it all out there. He is honest, he is forthright. But Donald Trump, on the other hand, has been about...
What's up, guys? I see you commenting. Thank you for commenting. I appreciate you guys watching and sticking with me.
Well, look,
I did what I could to eliminate the echo. Let me know in the comments that the echo's gone, okay?
Public service as well.
Thank you.
The American people have a president who's a businessman, he's a job creator, who's paid tens of millions of dollars in taxes, payroll taxes, property taxes. He's created tens of thousands of American jobs. And the president said those public reports are...
Yeah, which, by the way, he makes his banners and he makes his hats, and a lot of products, a lot of Ivanka products are all made in China and Mexico. So when it's just like, give me a break, dude.
Not accurate. And the president's also released literally stacks of financial disclosures the American people can review, just as the law allows. But the distinction here is that Joe Biden, 47 years in public service, compared to President Donald Trump, who brought all of that experience 4 years ago.
Thank you, Vice
and
President.
turned this economy around by cutting taxes, rolling back regulation.
Yeah, that was a good financial medical segue to transparency.
Thank you, Vice President.
If Joe Biden
didn't see that.
Kamala Harris.
You know, that's a good segue into our third topic, which is about the economy. This has been another aspect of life for Americans that's been so affected by this coronavirus. We have a jobs crisis brewing. On Friday, we learned that the unemployment rate had declined to 7.9% in September, but the job growth had stalled, and that was before the latest round of layoffs and furloughs in the airline industry at Disney and elsewhere. Hundreds of thousands of discouraged workers have stopped looking for work. Nearly 11 million jobs that existed at the beginning of the year haven't been replaced. Those hardest hit include Latinos, Blacks, and women. Senator Harris, the Biden-Harris campaign has proposed new programs to boost the economy, and you would pay for that new spending by raising $4 trillion in taxes on wealthy individuals and corporations. Some economists warn that could curb entrepreneurial ventures that fuel growth and create jobs. Would raising taxes put the recovery at risk, and you have 2 minutes to answer uninterrupted.
Thank you. On the issue of the economy, I think there couldn't be a more fundamental difference between Donald Trump and Joe Biden. Joe Biden believes you measure the health and the strength of America's economy based on the health.
You guys still hearing the echo? Yes or no? Are we good?
And the American family. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who measures the strength of the economy based on how rich people are doing, which is why he passed a tax bill benefiting the top 1% and the biggest corporations of America, leading to a $2 trillion deficit that the American people are going to have to pay for. On day one, Joe Biden will repeal that tax bill. He'll get rid of it. And what he'll do with the money is invest it in the American people. And through a plan that is about investing in infrastructure, something that Donald Trump said he would do. I remember hearing about.
Yeah, Pence definitely seems like he's just constantly on the defense. He's not. He doesn't have the offense here. She's got the offense. He's on the defense.
Infrastructure,
for sure.
I don't think it ever.
Thank you, Rebecca, for the feedback.
Joe Biden will do that. He'll invest in infrastructure. It's about upgrading our roads and bridges, but also investing in clean energy and renewable energy. Joe is going to invest that money in what we need to do around innovation. There was a time when our country believed in science and invested in research and development, so that we were an innovation leader on the globe. Joe Biden will use that money to invest in education. So, for example, for folks who want to go to a 2-year community college, it will be free. If you come from a family that makes less than $125,000, you'll go to a public university for free. And across the board, we'll make sure that if you have student loan debt, it's cut by $10,000. That's how Joe Biden thinks about the economy, which is it's about investing in the people of our country, as opposed to passing a tax bill, which had the benefit of letting American corporations go offshore to do their business.
Thank you,
You're
Senator
welcome.
Harris. Vice President Pence, your administration has been predicting a rapid and robust recovery, but the latest economic report suggests that's not happening. Should Americans be braced for an economic comeback that is going to take not months, but a year or more? You have 2 minutes to answer uninterrupted.
When President Trump and I took office, America had gone through the slowest economic recovery since the Great Depression. So when Joe Biden was vice president, they tried to tax and spend and regulate and bail our way back to a growing economy. President Trump cut taxes across the board. Despite what Senator Harris says, the average American family of four had $2,000.
You guys got to know that this is standard cut and paste stuff from every single election going back like 100 years. This is absolutely what they always say. It's the same bullshit every time, right? Let me just blow me up for a second. This is the same bullshit every 4 years, okay? That they want to sit there and pretend that they're cutting taxes for the people. No. You're cutting taxes for the wealthy, okay? Everybody knows it. Even the blue team does it. It's not just the red team that does that. That's why we're in $27 trillion worth of debt. All the money is getting taken to the top. We're being put in debt, and the entire country, every single citizen is worth I think taxpayers are worth $203,000 of debt per taxpayer, and every citizen is worth like $80,000 worth of debt per citizen. So where the hell are we doing well? When you've got all these jobs that are gone, all the business is gone, everything is gone, and she's just going to say how great Obama was, but we were just leading up to all of this failure under Obama. The national debt was out of control under Obama, just as it was under Bush and Trump. Point blank. I'm so sick of the BS.
Taxes. And with the rise in wages that occurred, most predominantly for blue-collar, hardworking Americans, the average household income for a family of four increased by $4,000 following President Trump's tax cuts. But America, you just heard Senator Harris tell you, on day one, Joe Biden's going to raise your taxes. It's really remarkable to think. I mean, right after a time where we're going through a pandemic that lost 22 million jobs at the height, we've already added back 11.6 million jobs because we had a president who cut taxes, rolled back regulation, unleashed American energy, fought for free and fair trade, and secured $4
And if you had
trillion
handled the coronavirus
from
correctly, you
the
wouldn't
United
have to
States
bring
with
back
direct
jobs.
payments to families,
Stupid
saved 50
jackass.
million jobs through the Paycheck Protection Program. We
Now, why
literally
hasn't she
spared
brought
no
up that they
expense to help
fired the
American
pandemic
people
team in
and the American worker
2018?
through this.
That's what she needs to do. Trump fired the Obama pandemic response team in 2018. Yep, that's real. And nothing that Obama had to deal with ever mounted to these numbers.
Joe Biden and Kamala Harris want to raise taxes. They want to bury our economy under a $2 trillion Green New Deal, which you were one of the original co-sponsors of in the United States Senate. They want to abolish
And I'm watching your
fossil
national
fuels
debt just
and
skyrocket,
ban
buddy.
fracking, which
Might
will
as well
cost
spend it on
hundreds of
education and not
thousands
war.
of American jobs all across the heartland. And Joe Biden wants to go back to the economic surrender to China, that when we took office, half of our international trade deficit was with China alone. And Joe Biden wants to repeal all of the tariffs.
All right. Just as a frame of reference for this part, whether he's going to go off on China, understand that the Chinese own a huge portion of the U.S. national debt, and that both parties are on some level like catering to the Chinese in order to continue having our national debt be purchased.
That President Trump put into effect to fight for American jobs and American workers. Joe Biden says democracy's on the ballot. Make no mistake about it, Susan. The American economy.
I want to know, for the people that are watching, please take a minute and put in the comments. I guess comments are over here. I don't know where. Put in the comments what issue you're watching this for, okay? I want to know what's important to you out there and why you're watching this, because I'm watching this because I believe both parties are at war with our freedom, and both parties are responsible for the division we see and the failure. Oh man, Pence is clearly unsettled. He's clearly struggling, and she's coming across super strong.
Comeback is on the ballot with 4 more years of growth and opportunity, 4 more years of President Donald Trump.
You're just you're a used car salesman, buddy.
Year in the history of this country.
Thank you, Vice President.
You're the worst.
Senator Harris.
Well, I mean, I
Nobody
we saw
believes you.
enough of it in last week's debate, but I think this is supposed to be a debate based on fact and truth. And the truth and the fact is, Joe Biden has been very clear. He will not raise taxes on anybody who makes less than $400,000
He said he's
a
going to
year.
repeal the Trump tax cuts.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
Well, wait.
I'm speaking.
It'd be important if you said the truth. Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week that he's going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. That was tax cuts that
Keep
gave
smiling,
the average
girl.
working family
Keep smiling.
$2,000 in a tax break
Let him just-
every single year.
That is,
Senator,
that is
that's the math.
absolutely not true. That
Is he
tax
only
bill-
cutting? Is he only going to repeal part of the Trump tax cuts?
If
Oh,
you don't mind letting me finish, we can then have a conversation, okay?
Please.
Okay. Joe Biden will not raise taxes on anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year. He has been very clear about that. Joe Biden will not end fracking. He has been very clear about that. Joe Biden is the one who, during the Great Recession, was responsible for the Recovery Act that brought America back.
did
And
she
now
just
the
say
Trump
Joe Biden will not
Pence
ban
administration
fracking?
wants to take credit
what?
when they rode the coattails of Joe Biden's success for the economy that they had at the beginning of their term. Of course, now the economy is a complete disaster.
Yes, Australia is coming up right behind the United States. In fact, everybody is headed in the direction the United States is if they're not careful, which is just complete and total fascism, white supremacy, and police state. Yep.
But on the one hand, did that. On the other hand, you have Donald Trump, who has reigned over a recession that is being compared to the Great Depression. On the one hand, you have Joe Biden, who was responsible with President Barack Obama for the Affordable Care Act, which brought health care to over 20 million Americans and protected people with pre-existing conditions. And what it also did is it saved those families who otherwise would
Yeah,
be
she's
bankrupt
handling him like a
because of hospital
kindergarten
bills they
teacher.
could not afford.
He's
On the other
he's
hand,
out of turn.
You have Donald Trump, who's in court right now, trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which means that you will lose protections if you have pre-existing conditions. And this is very important, Susan.
Yes,
and it's
but we
important
need to give Vice President.
I'd just like to, he interrupted me, and I'd like to just finish, please. If you have a pre-existing condition heart disease, diabetes, breast cancer, they're coming for you. If you love someone who has a pre-existing condition,
Thank you,
they're
Senator
coming
Harris.
for you. If you are under the age of 26 on your parents' coverage, they're coming for you.
Senator Harris, thank you.
You're
Let
welcome.
me give you a chance to respond.
Well, I hope we have a chance to talk about health care because Obamacare was a disaster. The American people remember it well. And President Trump and I have a plan to improve health care and to protect pre-existing conditions for every American. But look, Senator Harris, you're entitled to your own opinion, but you're not entitled to your own facts. You yourself said on multiple occasions when you were running for president that you would ban fracking. Joe Biden looked at a supporter in the eye and pointed and said, I guarantee that we will abolish fossil fuels. They have a $2 trillion version of the Green New Deal, Susan, that your newspaper, USA Today,
That's a
said
good thing.
really wasn't that very different from the original
And
Green
she's
New Deal.
playing the middle right now.
More
Y'all
taxes,
seeing this?
More regulation.
No, we won't ban
banning
fossil
fracking,
fuels. Yes, you
abolishing
need
fossil
to.
fuel,
It's time to
crushing American
evolve.
energy, and
It's a
economic
climate
surge
catastrophe, Kamala. Get it.
is a prescription for economic decline. President Trump and I will keep America growing. The
Climate change
V-shaped recovery that's
deniers.
underway right now will continue with 4 more years of President Donald Trump.
Thank you very, very much.
You don't
Vice
care about the
President
future,
Pence. Once
you
again,
old
you've
piece of shit.
provided the perfect segue to a new topic, which is climate change. And Vice President Pence, I'd like to pose the first question to you. This year, we've seen record-setting hurricanes in the South. Another one,
He's
Hurricane
going to
Delta,
pretend
is
God.
threatening.
No, here we go.
And we have seen
Here we go.
record-setting wildfires in the West. Do you believe, as the scientific community has concluded, that man-made climate change has made wildfires bigger, hotter, and more deadly, and have made hurricanes wetter, slower, and more damaging? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Thank you, Susan. Well, first, I'm very proud of our record on the environment and on conservation. According to all of the best estimates, our air and land are cleaner than any time ever recorded. Our water is among the cleanest in the world. And just a little while ago, the President signed the Outdoors Act. It's the largest investment in our public lands and public parks in 100 years. So President Trump has made a commitment to conservation and to the environment. Now, with regard to climate change, the climate is changing. But the issue is, what's the cause and what do we do about it? President Trump has made it clear that we're going to continue to listen to the science. Now, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris would put us back in the Paris Climate Accord. They'd impose the Green New Deal, which would crush American energy, would increase the energy costs of American families in their homes, and literally would crush American jobs. And President Trump and I believe that the progress that we have made...
This POS right here is a shill for the fossil fuel companies, guys. He is obviously selling fossil fuels here. It is very clear. He wants to pretend like there's not millions of jobs waiting for us in the solar sector or the wind sector or any of the renewable energy sectors. He wants to pretend like that's not worthy of investment, that we shouldn't begin making the transition. This guy is a fraud.
In a clean environment has been happening precisely because we have a strong free market economy. You know, what's remarkable is the United States has reduced CO2 more than the countries that are still in the Paris Climate Accord, but we've done it through innovation. And we've done it through natural gas and fracking, which, Senator, the American people can go look at the record. I know Joe Biden says otherwise now, as you do, but the both of you repeatedly committed to abolishing fossil fuel and banning fracking. And so by creating the kind of American innovation, we're actually steering toward a stronger and better environment. With regard to wildfires...
Yeah, they're really gunning for those heartland votes. You feel this? Like, this is when you start talking about jobs and fossil fuels and stuff, we're talking about heartland votes. We're talking about Nebraska. We're talking about West Virginia. We're talking about, like, all of the more backwood America that is like, you know, you're not going to kill my jobs. You're not going to take my oil job. You're not going to take my fossil fuels. My point is, like, people drive their big trucks. These conservatives love their big trucks. They love their gas. And Democrats are obviously more on a sustainable tip. So she's pretending to not want to move into the future in order to get more votes from heartland Americans, right? But yeah, no, the Democrats definitely want to move in the Green New Deal, which is the Democratic Party. We are progressive. We are moving forward. Like, and I'm not in the Democratic Party, but like, I'm with that effort. Okay. Green New Deal. It's legit. We need to save the planet. Climate catastrophe is very real. And he's pretending like he is about science, which is his
President
fakery.
Trump and I believe that forest management has to be front and center. And even Governor Gavin Newsom from your state has agreed we've got to work on forest management.
Forest management in 4 years did not increase any money to California whatsoever for forest management. In 4 years, didn't do it.
Management to hurricanes.
Blah, 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 blah.
The National Oceanic Administration tells us that actually, as difficult as they are,
Thank you, Vice President.
there are no more hurricanes today than there were 100 years ago.
Thank you.
But many of the climate alarmists
Pence,
use hurricanes and wildfires to try and sell their bill of goods of a Green New Deal. And President Trump and I are going to always put American jobs and American workers first.
Senator Harris,
blah, blah, blah,
the
blah,
Vice
blah.
President mentioned, you co-sponsored the Green New Deal in Congress. But Vice President Biden said in last week's debate that he does not support the Green New Deal. But if you look at the Biden-Harris campaign website, it describes the Green New Deal as a crucial framework. What exactly would be the stance of a Biden-Harris administration toward the Green New Deal? You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Sure. So first of all, I will repeat, and the American people know, that Joe Biden will not ban fracking. That is a fact. That is a fact. I will repeat that Joe Biden has been very clear that he thinks about growing jobs, which is why he will not increase taxes for anyone who makes less than $400,000 a year. Joe Biden's economic plan, Moody's, which is a reputable Wall Street firm, has said will create
air is
7
cleaner
million
because
more
of
jobs
COVID.
than Donald Trump's. And part of those jobs that will be created by Joe Biden are going to be about clean energy and renewable energy. Because you see, Joe understands that the west coast of our country is burning, including my home state of California. Joe sees what is happening on the Gulf states, which are being battered by storms. Joe has seen and talked with the farmers in Iowa, whose entire crops have been destroyed because of floods. And so Joe believes, again, in science. I'll tell you something, Susan. I served, when I first got to the Senate, on the committee that's responsible for the environment. Do you know this administration took the word science off the website and then took the phrase climate change off the website? We have seen a pattern with this administration, which is they don't believe in science. And Joe's plan is about saying we're going to deal with it, but we're also going to create jobs. Donald Trump, when asked about the wildfires in California, and the question was, you know, the science is telling us this, you know what Donald Trump said? Science doesn't know. So let's talk about who is prepared to lead our country over the course of the next 4 years on what is an existential threat to us as human beings. Joe is about saying we're going to invest that in renewable energy. It's going to be about the creation of millions of jobs. We will achieve net zero emissions by 2050, carbon neutral by 2035. Joe has a plan. This has been a lot of talk from the Trump administration, and really it has been to go backward instead of forward. We will also re-enter the climate agreement with pride.
Sure.
Senator Harris just said that climate change is an existential threat. Vice President Pence, do you believe that climate change poses an existential threat?
As I said, Susan, the climate is changing. We'll follow the science. Once again, Senator Harris is denying the fact that they're going to raise taxes on every American. Joe Biden said twice in the debate last week that on day one he was going to repeal the Trump tax cuts. Those tax cuts delivered $2,000 in tax relief to the average family of 4 across America. And with regard to banning fracking, I just recommend that people look at the record. You yourself said repeatedly that you would ban fracking. You were the first Senate co-sponsor of the Green New Deal.
Notice how he ducked the question.
While Joe Biden denied
does climate change pose an existential threat? He didn't really answer.
The Green New Deal is on their campaign website. And as USA Today said, it's essentially the same plan as you co-sponsored with AOC when she submitted it in the Senate. And you just heard the senator say that she's going to resubmit America to the Paris Climate Accord. Look, the American people have always cherished our environment. We'll continue to cherish it. We've made great progress reducing CO2 emissions through American innovation and the development of natural gas through fracking. We don't need a massive $2 trillion Green New Deal that would impose all new mandates on American businesses and American families.
Thank you.
Joe Biden wants us to retrofit 4 million American business buildings. It makes no sense. It will cost jobs. President Trump is going to put America first. He's going to put jobs first.
Blah, 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 blah. I'm going to interrupt you assholes when you just keep talking. Blah, blah, blah.
The vice president earlier referred to, as part of what he thinks is an accomplishment, the president's trade war with China. You lost that trade war. You lost it. What ended up happening is because of a so-called trade war with China, America lost 300,000 manufacturing jobs. Farmers have experienced bankruptcy because of it. We are in a manufacturing recession because of it. And when we look at where this administration has been, there are estimates that by the end of the term of this administration, they will have lost more jobs than almost any other presidential administration. And the American people know what I'm talking about. You know. I think about 20-year-olds. You know, we have a 20-year-old, a 20-something-year-old, who are coming out of high school and college right now, and you're wondering, is there going to be a job there for me? We're looking at people who are trying to figure out how they're going to pay rent by the end of the month. Almost half of American renters are worried about whether they're going to be able to pay rent by the end of the month. This is where the economy is in America right now, and it is because of the catastrophe and the failure of leadership of this administration.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, let me give you just 15 seconds to respond, because then I want to move on to
Well, I'd love to respond. Look, lost the trade war with China. Joe Biden never fought it. Joe Biden has been a cheerleader for communist China through over the last several decades. And again,
get the fuck out of here,
Harris,
dude.
You're entitled to your opinion. You're not entitled to your own facts. When Joe Biden was vice president, we lost 200,000 manufacturing jobs, and President Obama said they were never coming back. He said we needed a magic wand to bring them back. In our first 3 years after we cut to
Well, one thing is for sure. There are failures of the Obama administration to get things right, and that definitely led to Trump being elected. If Obama had done better, Trump would never have been elected. Hillary would have just been elected. So everyone would have been laughing at Trump if Obama was really, really successful.
taxes,
Thank you, Vice
rollback regulation, unleashed American energy. This administration saw 500,000
Thank you, Vice
manufacturing
President
jobs
Pence.
created.
Blah, blah,
and that's
blah,
exactly
blah,
the
blah,
kind
blah.
of growth we're going to
Blah,
continue
blah,
to see
blah,
as we
blah.
bring our
More
nation
Fox
through
News.
this
Blah,
pandemic.
Blah, blah, blah.
A Green New
Thank
Deal,
you,
Blah,
Vice
blah,
President.
massive
blah.
new mandates,
Blah,
Paris
blah,
Climate
blah.
Accord.
I'm a
It's gonna
shill
kill
for the
jobs
oil
this time,
companies.
just
Blah,
like it
blah,
killed
blah.
jobs.
I'd like
Blah,
I
blah.
just need to respond very briefly,
15
please.
seconds, and
Thank
then we'll
you.
move on.
Thank you. Joe Biden is responsible for saving America's auto industry, and you voted against it. So let's set the record straight. Thank you.
I'd like to talk about China. We have, as our next topic, we have no more complicated or consequential foreign relationship than the one with China. It is a huge market for American agricultural goods. It's a potential partner in dealing with climate change in North Korea. And in a video tonight, President Trump again blamed it for the coronavirus, saying China will pay. Vice President Pence, how would you describe our fundamental relationship with China? Competitors, adversaries, enemies? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Susan. Well, before I leave that, let me speak to voting records if I can. Everybody knows that NAFTA cost literally thousands of American factories to close. We saw automotive jobs go south of the border. President Trump fought to renegotiate NAFTA. And the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement is now the law of the land. American people deserve to know Senator Kamala Harris was one of only 10 members of the Senate to vote against the USMCA. It was a huge win for American auto workers. It was a huge win for American farmers, especially dairy in the upper Midwest.
Dude, you are horrific.
But Senator, you said it didn't go far enough on climate change, that you put your radical environmental agenda ahead of American auto workers and ahead of American
There he is,
jobs.
pandering to Heartland America again.
Newsweek magazine said that Kamala Harris was the
only
most
way they're gonna
liberal
get
member
elected.
of the United States Senate in 2019, more liberal than Bernie Sanders, more liberal than any of the others in the United States Senate. So now, with regard to China, look, Susan, first and foremost, China is to blame for the coronavirus. And President Trump is not happy about it. He's made that very clear, made it clear again today. China and the World Health Organization did not play straight with the American people. They did not let our personnel
blame everybody else
to get information on
take
the
no
coronavirus
responsibility.
in the middle of February. Fortunately, President Trump, in dealing with China from the outset of this administration, standing up to China that had been taking advantage of America for decades in the wake of Joe Biden's cheerleading for China, President Trump made that decision before the end of January to suspend all travel from China. And again, the American people deserve to know Joe Biden opposed President Trump's decision to suspend all travel from China. He said it was hysterical. He said it was
Thank you, Vice
xenophobic.
President Pence.
But President Trump has
Vice
stood
President Pence,
up
your
to
time is
China.
up.
We're going to continue to stand strong.
Thank you, Vice President Pence.
We want to improve the relationship, but we're going to level.
Blah, 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 blah.
Vice President
Blah, 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 blah. Time's up, asshole. Time's up.
Thank you.
Blah, blah, blah.
Senator Harris, let me ask you the same question that I asked the Vice President. How would you describe our fundamental relationship with China? Are we competitors, adversaries, enemies? You'll have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Competitors.
Susan, the Trump administration's perspective and approach to China has resulted in the loss of American lives, American jobs, and America's standing.
True.
There's a weird obsession that President Trump has had with getting rid of whatever accomplishment was achieved by President Obama and Vice President Biden. For example, they created within the White House an office that basically was responsible for monitoring pandemics. They got away, they got rid of it.
Not true.
There
It is true.
was a team of disease
That's absolutely
experts
true.
that President Obama and Vice President Biden dispatched to China to monitor what is now predictable and what might happen. They pulled them out. We now are looking at 210,000 Americans who have lost their lives. Let's look at the job situation. We mentioned before the trade deal, the trade war, they wanted to call it, with China. It resulted in the loss of over 300.
Yeah, we shouldn't be having trade wars with China. That's stupid.
Recession.
Trump wants war with China. Trump is an
Thousands
idiot.
of dollars more for goods because of that failed war.
And he doesn't even really want war.
And
It's
let's
just
talk
posturing.
about standing. Pew,
It's
a
just to speak to his
reputable
racist
research
base.
firm,
Get votes.
has done an analysis that shows that leaders of all of our formerly allied countries have now decided that they hold in greater esteem and respect Xi Jinping, the head of the Chinese Communist Party, than they do Donald Trump, the President of the United States, the Commander-in-Chief of the United States. This is where we are today because of a failure of leadership by this administration.
Senator Harris, we've seen changes in the role of the United States in terms of global leadership over the past 4 years. And of course, times do change. What's your definition? We've seen strains with China, of course, as the Vice President mentioned. We've seen strains with our traditional allies in NATO and elsewhere. What is your definition of the role of American leadership in 2020?
So, you know, Joe is, I love talking with Joe about a lot of these issues. And, you know, Joe, I think he said it quite well. He says, you know, foreign policy, it might sound complicated, but really it's relationships. So just think about it as relationships. And so we know this in our personal and professional relationships. You got to keep your word to your friends. Got to be loyal to your friends. People who've stood with you, got to stand with them. You got to know who your adversaries are and keep them in check. But what we have seen with Donald Trump is that he has betrayed our friends and embraced dictators around the world. Let's take, for example, Russia. So,
Oh,
Russia,
God.
I serve on the Intelligence Committee of the United States Senate. America's intelligence community told us Russia interfered in the election of the President of the United States in 2016 and is playing in 2020. Christopher Wray,
No, the Russia collusion story is a distraction from the Israeli collusion truth. Both parties are controlled by Zionism. Both parties support Israel over Palestine. And so they point at Russia to get away from the fact that both parties are working together to support Israel.
Director FBI said the same. But Donald Trump, the commander-in-chief of the United States of America, prefers to take the word of Vladimir Putin over the word of the American intelligence community. You look at our friends at NATO. He's walked away from agreements. You can look at the Iran nuclear
You can't
deal,
look her in the eye.
which now has put us in a position where we are less safe because they are building up what might end up being a significant nuclear arsenal. We were in that deal, guys. We were in the Iran nuclear deal with friends, with allies around the country. And because of Donald Trump's unilateral approach to foreign policy, coupled with his isolationism, he pulled us out and has made America less safe. So, Susan, it's about relationships. And the thing that has always been part of the strength of our nation, in addition to our great military, has been that we keep our word. But Donald Trump doesn't understand that because he doesn't understand what it means to be honest.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Vice President Pence, let me give you a chance.
Sounds good to me.
Well, thank you. Well, President Trump kept his word when we moved the American embassy to Jerusalem, the capital of the state of Israel. When Joe Biden.
Oh, now she's not going to speak out against that. I doubt it because she's controlled by Zionist interests as well. However, that move of the embassy from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem caused so many Palestinians to die. They got shot by Israel on the Gaza border and along the wall because there were massive protests because Palestinians want a say in what happens with the American embassy because this was all Palestine not even 90 years ago. So, yeah, Israeli collusion is the real story,
Vice
not
President,
Russia.
they promised to do that, and they never did. We've stood strong with our allies, but we've been demanding. NATO is now contributing more to our common defense than ever before, thanks to President Trump's leadership. We've strengthened our alliances across the Asia-Pacific, and we've stood strong against those who would do us harm. You know, when President Trump came into office, ISIS had captured an area of the Middle East the size of Pennsylvania. But President Trump unleashed the American military, and our armed forces destroyed the ISIS caliphate and took down their leader, al-Baghdadi, without one American casualty. Al-Baghdadi was responsible for the death of thousands. But notably, America's hearts today are with the family of Kayla Mueller. Her parents
Yeah, but you're not responsible for the death of
tonight in
thousands.
Salt Lake City. Today, two of the ISIS killers.
Hit him, Kamala,
responsible for
come
Kayla
on.
Mueller's murder were brought to justice in the United States. Jihadi John was killed on the battlefield along with the other Beetle. The reality is that when Joe Biden was vice president, we had an opportunity to save Kayla Mueller. It breaks my heart to reflect on it, but the military came into the Oval Office, presented a plan. They said they knew where Kayla was. Baghdadi had held her for 18 months, abused her mercilessly before.
This is all a distraction. The war on terror is bullshit, needs to be
When
ended.
Joe Biden was vice president, they hesitated.
This is military defense money speaking now.
When armed forces finally went in, it was clear she'd been moved.
Military defense money speaking. This is not, these are puppets, guys. And this is like, she's not going to speak up in defense of Palestinians on the Israeli border after the embassy move. She's not going to do the job because she's controlled by the same interests. And this is why I'm running. This is why I'm going live, because I want to interrupt these puppets and say the real thing.
2 days earlier. And her family says with a heart that broke the heart of every American that If President Donald Trump had been president, they believe Kayla would be alive today.
Thank you, Vice
Look,
President.
we destroyed the ISIS caliphate.
Nope.
And
No
we
one
talk
wants to
about
hear you
the
after you keep talking. When
nuclear
she says
deal.
it's time to
The
get
last
stop, it's time to
administration
stop,
transferred
old man.
$1.8 billion
Do you understand, old
to
man?
the leading
You don't
state
seem to get the
sponsor
rules
Thank you,
just
Vice
like your boss
terrorism.
doesn't get the rules.
President Donald Trump
I
was
don't.
out
Nope.
of the
Thank you,
deal.
Vice President.
Nope.
And
Nope.
when
Sorry,
Qasem
buddy.
Soleimani was
Nope.
traveling
Nope.
to
Mm-mm.
Baghdad,
Thank you,
to
Vice
be armed
President.
to Americans.
No.
President
No.
Donald
No.
Trump
No.
took
Thank you,
them
Vice
out.
President.
You don't get to
And
keep
America
talking.
is safer. Our
Nope,
allies
he just
are
keeps
safer. The
talking.
American people know.
Blah 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 blah.
Never
Blah
Thank you,
blah
Vice
blah
President.
blah
Take
blah.
action.
I
Nope,
would
you're
like to
breaking the
give
rules.
Senator Harris a chance to respond, but not at such great length, because of course there are other topics we want to talk about.
But I would like equal time.
Yes.
Thank you.
Please go ahead.
First of all, to the Mueller family, I know about your daughter's case, and I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. What happened to her is awful, and it should have never happened. And I know Joe feels the same way. And I know that President Obama feels the same way. But you mentioned Soleimani. Let's start there. So after the strike on Soleimani, there was a counter strike on our troops in Iraq. And they suffered serious brain injuries. And do you know what Donald Trump dismissed them as? Headaches. And this is about a pattern of Donald Trump's, where he has referred to our men who are serving in our military as suckers and losers. Donald Trump, who went to Arlington Cemetery and stood above the graves of our fallen heroes and said, what's in it for them? Because, of course, he only thinks about what's in it for him. Let's take what he said about John McCain, a great American hero.
No, not an American hero.
And Donald Trump says he doesn't deserve to be called a hero.
That is classic. Like the fact that they're calling that an American hero. John McCain is like how you know that the order is the order is the order. Okay. Like anytime a Democrat says, "Oh, John McCain is great," no, they're lying. John McCain was a warmonger. He just helped kill so many Iraqis. But both of these guys are really on his side, right? It's like Trump is just a blumbering idiot, and it's at the end of the day, like his disrespect for the military in general, his disrespect for everybody in general is very obvious. It's not just the military. So. Yeah, John McCain is not a hero.
As a prisoner of war. And this is very important when you want to talk about who is the current commander-in-chief and what they care about and what they don't care about. Public reporting that Russia had bounties on the heads of American soldiers. And you know what a bounty is? It's somebody puts a price on your head and they will pay it if you are killed. And Donald Trump had talked at least 6 times to Vladimir Putin and never brought up the subject. Joe Biden would never do that.
Thank you.
Joe Biden would, but Joe Biden would hold Russia to account for any threat.
Stick to the rules. Make him look like the idiot.
Security or to our troops who are sacrificing their lives for the sake of our democracy and our safety.
Thank you, Senator Harris. This is such an important issue, but we have other important issues as well. And I want to make sure we have a chance.
I really have to.
No, asshole, no.
She has
15 seconds because
I got to have more than that. Look,
no, you don't get more than that.
Look, you've had more time.
No,
than she's had.
follow the rules, asshole.
Against President
God, these guys are such bullies.
Men and women.
Follow the rules.
I'm sorry, Vice
You
President.
don't get to know. You don't get to fucking talk now, asshole. No, no. Blah, 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 blah.
All of you.
No.
With sons
No.
and daughters serving.
No. You're an asshole.
Donald Trump not only respects, but
No. Blah, 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 blah. Follow the rules, kid. Follow the rules, child.
Ridiculous.
Follow the rules.
Thank you, Vice President.
Follow the rules, child. Follow the rules, child.
Vice President.
Follow the rules, child.
Excuse me.
Follow the rules, child.
Create the rules for tonight.
Joe Biden.
Follow the fucking rules, child.
Agreed to the rules for tonight's debate.
Follow the
with
rules,
Commissioner
child.
President debates. I'm here to enforce them.
Yes.
Which involves moving from one topic
topic to
Got
another,
it.
giving roughly equal
Finally,
time to
shut
both
up.
of you,
Go right
which is what I'm trying very hard to do.
Go right ahead.
So I want to go ahead and move to the next topic, which is an important one, as the last topic was, and that is the Supreme Court. On Monday, the Senate Judiciary Committee is scheduled to
job,
open
lady.
hearings on Amy Coney Barrett's nomination to the Supreme Court. Senator Harris, you'll be there as a member of the committee. Her confirmation would cement the court's conservative majority and make it likely open to more abortion restrictions, even to overturning the landmark Roe v. Wade ruling. Access to abortion would then be up to the states. Vice President Pence, you're the former governor of Indiana. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, what would you want Indiana to do? Would you want your home state to ban
I can't believe we're having
all
this
abortions?
conversation.
You have 2 minutes, uninterrupted.
Well, thank you for the question, but I'll use a little bit of my time to respond to that very important issue before. The American people deserve to know Qasem Soleimani, the Iranian general, was responsible for the death of hundreds of American service members.
And what about the 210,000? He wants us to care about these hundreds of American servicemen, but he doesn't want us to worry. He wants us to think, oh, 210,000 is a good job. What a
And the
idiot.
opportunity, we saw him headed to Baghdad to kill more Americans. President Trump didn't hesitate, and Qasem Soleimani is gone. But you deserve to know that Joe Biden and Kamala Harris actually criticized the decision to take out Qasem Soleimani. It's really inexplicable, but with regard to Joe Biden, it's explainable. Because history records that Joe Biden actually opposed the raid against Osama bin Laden. It's absolutely essential that we have a commander-in-chief who will not hesitate to act to protect American lives and to protect American service members, and that's what you have in President Donald Trump.
Right. Yeah.
Now, with
President
regard
Trump
to the
with
Supreme Court of the
210,000
United
dead.
States.
Yeah, okay.
Let me say, President Trump and I could not
Okay,
be
buddy.
more enthusiastic about the opportunity to see Judge Amy Coney Barrett become Justice Amy
Notice
Coney
he's
Barrett.
avoiding the question. She asked about abortion being overturned by the conservative court, and he's talking about something else to get away from the fact that that is something a lot of people don't want.
She's a brilliant woman, and she will bring a lifetime of experience and a sizable American family to the Supreme Court of the United States. And our hope is, in the hearing next week, unlike Justice Kavanaugh received with treatment from you and others, we hope she gets a fair hearing. And we particularly hope that we don't see the kind of attacks on her Christian faith that we saw before. I mean, the Democrat chairman of the Judiciary Committee before, when Judge Barrett was being confirmed for the Court of Appeals, expressed concern that the dogma of her faith lived loudly in her. Dick Durbin of Illinois said that it was a concern. Senator, I know one of our judicial nominees you actually attacked because they were a member of the Catholic Knights of Columbus, just because the Knights of Columbus holds pro-life views and
Thank you.
pro-marriage views.
Thank you, Vice President
So
Pence. Your
my
time
hope
is
is
up.
that when the hearing takes
Okay,
place,
time's up, buddy.
Thank you, Vice President.
Time's up.
Judge Amy
Time's
Coney
up.
Barrett will be
Time's up, you
you,
dumb
Vice
piece of
President.
shit. Time's up.
voted and confirmed
Thank
to the
you.
Time's
Supreme
up,
Court.
man. Time's up. No one wants to hear you keep
the
talking,
senator from
okay?
the former
Nobody.
Attorney General of California. So let me ask you a parallel question to the one I posed to the Vice President. If Roe v. Wade is overturned, what would you want California to do? Would you want your home state to enact no restrictions on access to abortion? And you have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Thank you, Susan. First of all, Joe Biden and I are both people of faith, and it's insulting to suggest that we would knock anyone for their faith. And in fact, Joe, if elected, will be only the second practicing Catholic as President of the United States. On the issue of this nomination, Joe and I are very clear, as are the majority of the American people. We are 27 days before the decision about who will be the next president of the United States. And, you know, before, when this conversation has come up, you know, it's been about election year or election time. We're literally in an election. Over 4 million people have voted. People are in the process of voting right now. And so Joe has been very clear, as the American people are. Let the American people fill that seat in the White House, and then we'll fill that seat on the United States Supreme Court. And to your point, Susan, The issues before us couldn't be more serious. There's the issue of choice, and I will always fight for a woman's right to make a decision about her own body. It should be her decision and not that of Donald Trump and the Vice President, Michael Pence. But let's also look at what else is before the court. It's the Affordable Care Act. Like, literally in the midst of a public health pandemic, when over 210,000 people have died and 7 million people probably have what will be in the future considered a pre-existing condition because you contracted the virus. Donald Trump is in court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. And I said it before, and it bears repeating. This means that there will be no more protections if they win for people with pre-existing conditions. This means that over 20 million people will lose your coverage. It means that if you're under the age of 26, you can't stay on your parents' coverage anymore. And here's the thing. The contrast couldn't be more clear. They're trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. Joe Biden is saying, let's expand coverage. Let's give you a choice of a public option or private coverage. Let's bring down premiums.
Thank you, Senator
Let's
Harris.
lower Medicare eligibility.
They both avoided this question. Which is really despicable. They both avoided the question. What was the question was, if the court overturns Roe v. Wade, what are they going to do in the states where they're from? And it's clear California would have to defy the federal mandate and actually continue giving abortions. It's just she doesn't want to answer it because that's the answer, and that's a controversial answer. He also avoided the question. It's just ridiculous.
Eligibility to 60.
Thank you, Senator.
That's true leadership.
You know, you mentioned earlier, Vice President Pence, that the president was committed to maintaining protections for people with pre-existing conditions. But you do have this court case that you are supporting, your administration supporting, that would strike down the Affordable Care Act. The President Trump says that he's going to protect people with pre-existing conditions, but he has not explained how he would do that. And that was one of the toughest nuts to crack when they were passing the Affordable Care Act. So tell us specifically, how would your administration protect Americans with pre-existing conditions to have access to affordable insurance if the Affordable Care Act is struck down?
Well, thank you, Susan. But let me just say, addressing your very first question, I couldn't be more proud to serve as vice president to a president who stands without apology for the sanctity of human life. I'm pro-life. I don't apologize for it. And this is another one of those cases where there's such a dramatic contrast. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris support taxpayer funding of abortion all the way up to the moment of birth, late-term abortion. They want to increase funding to Planned Parenthood of America. Now, for our part, I would never presume how Judge Amy Coney Barrett would rule on the Supreme Court of the United States, but we'll continue to stand strong for the right to life. When you speak about the Supreme Court, though, I think the American people really deserve an answer, Senator Harris. Are you and Joe Biden going to pack the court if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed? I mean, there have been 29 vacancies on the Supreme Court during presidential election years, from George Washington to Barack Obama. Presidents have nominated in all 29 cases. But your party... She had better bring up the fact that Mitch McConnell and the Republican Senate did not move forward on Obama's actually
nomination.
Openly advocating adding seats to the Supreme Court.
She better
say
that.
9 seats for 150 years if you don't get your way. This is a classic case of if you can't win by the rules, you're going to change the rules. Now, you've refused to answer the question. Joe Biden has refused to answer the question. So I think the American people would really like to know, if Judge Amy Coney Barrett is confirmed to the Supreme Court of the United States, are you and Joe Biden, if somehow you win this election, going to pack the Supreme Court to get your way?
I'm so glad we went through a little history lesson. Let's do that a little more. In 1864...
Well, I'd like you to answer the question.
Mr. Vice President, I'm speaking.
No, motherfucker, shut up.
In 1864, one of the, I think, political heroes, certainly of the president, I assume if you also, Mr. Vice President, is Abraham Lincoln. Mm-hmm. Abraham Lincoln was up for re-election, and it was 27 days before the election, and a seat became open on the United States Supreme Court. Abraham Lincoln's party was in charge not only of the White House, but the Senate. But Honest Abe said it's not the right thing to do. The American people deserve to make the decision about who will be the next president of the United States. And then that person can select who will serve for a lifetime on the highest court of our land. And so Joe and I are very clear. The American people are voting right now, and it should be their decision.
Dude, she is rocking this. She's rocking so hard.
Important body.
Like she is crushing this debate.
Thank you,
And
Senator
the
Harris.
people, Susan, are voting right now. They'd like to know if you and Joe Biden are going to pack the Supreme Court if you don't get your way in this nomination.
Let's talk.
For the record, this would be a 6-3 Republican conservative majority in the Supreme Court should their shit go through. They're the ones packing the court, ladies and gentlemen. Kamala's kind of holding back. I don't know why, but the Republicans are packing the court. And he's sitting here, are you going to pack the court? Like, you're doing it, you dipshit.
Talk about packing.
You once again gave a non-answer. Joe Biden gave a non-answer.
Trying to answer you
the
now.
American people deserve a straight answer. And
you don't give a straight answer.
Out yet, the straight answer is they are going to pack the Supreme Court if they somehow win this election. Men and women, I got to tell you, people across this country, if you cherish our Supreme Court, if you cherish the separation of powers, you need to reject the Biden-Harris ticket. Come November the 3rd, re-elect President Donald Trump, and we'll stand by that separation of powers in a 9-seat Supreme Court.
Yeah, let's talk about packing the court then. Let's talk about the fact. Yeah, I'm about to. So the Trump-Pence administration
has
been, because I sit on the Senate Judiciary Committee, Susan, as you mentioned, and I've witnessed the appointments for lifetime appointments to the federal courts, district courts, courts of appeal. People who are purely ideological, people who have been reviewed by legal professional organizations and found to have been not competent, are substandard. And do you know that of the 50 people who President Trump appointed to the Court of Appeals for lifetime appointments, not one is black? This is what they've been doing. You want to talk about packing a court? Let's have that discussion.
Ooh.
Thank you, Senator. Let's go on and talk about the issue of racial justice.
I just want the record to reflect she never
Good job, Harris. Good job.
Maybe the next debate,
Thank you.
but I think most people know the answer.
Thank you, Vice President. In March, Breonna Taylor, a 26-year-old emergency room technician in Louisville, was shot and killed after police officers executing a search warrant in a narcotics investigation broke into her apartment. The police said they identified themselves. Taylor's boyfriend said he didn't hear them do that. He used a gun registered to him to fire a shot, which wounded an officer. The officers then fired more than 20 rounds into the apartment. They say they were acting in self-defense. None of them have been indicted in connection with her death. Senator Harris, in the case of Breonna Taylor, was justice done? You have 2 minutes.
I don't believe so. And I've talked with Breonna's mother, Tamika Palmer, and her family. And her family deserves justice. She was a beautiful young woman. She had as her life goal to become a nurse, and she wanted to become an EMT to first learn what's going on out on the street so she could then become a nurse and save lives. And her life was taken unjustifiably and tragically and violently. And it brings me to, the 8 minutes and 46 seconds that America witnessed, during which an American man was tortured and killed under the knee of an armed, uniformed police officer. And people around our country of every race, of every age, of every gender,
this is about to get funky.
Perfect strangers to each other, marched shoulder to shoulder, arm in arm, fighting for us to finally achieve that ideal of equal justice under law. And I was a part of those peaceful protests. And I believe strongly that, first of all, we are never going to condone violence, but we always must fight for the values that we hold dear, including the fight to achieve our ideals. And that's why Joe Biden and I have said on this subject, look, and I'm a former career prosecutor. I know what I'm talking about. Bad cops are bad for good cops. We need reform of our policing in America and our criminal justice system, which is why Joe and I will immediately ban chokeholds and carotid holds. George Floyd would be alive today if we did that. We will require a national registry for police officers who break the law. We will, on the issue of criminal justice reform,
Do that, please.
get rid of private prisons and cash bail, and we will decriminalize marijuana, and we will expunge the records of those who have been convicted of marijuana. This is a time for leadership on a tragic issue
Senator Harris,
of
your time
unarmed
is
black
up.
people in America.
Stop.
Thank you, Senator
Stop.
Harris. Vice President Pence, let me pose the same question to you. In the case of Breonna Taylor, was
This is going
justice
to be a
done?
joke.
You have 2 minutes uninterrupted.
Well, our heart breaks for the loss of any innocent American life. And the family of Breonna Taylor has our sympathies. But I trust our justice system, a grand jury that refused the evidence.
I trust the justice.
And it really is remarkable that as a former prosecutor, you would assume that an impaneled grand jury looking at all the evidence got it wrong. But you're entitled to your opinion, Senator. I think, look, and with regard to George Floyd, there's no excuse for what happened to George Floyd. And justice will be served. But there's also no excuse for the rioting and looting that followed. I mean, it really is astonishing. Flora Westbrook is with us here tonight in Salt Lake City. Just a few weeks ago, I stood at what used to be her salon. It was burned to the ground by rioters and looters. And Flora is still trying to put her life back together.
Just notice how it's like the people that suffer when people are protesting suffering are more worthy of his defense than the people protesting suffering or the people that are suffering. This man is pathetic.
I must tell you, this
is a shriveled little pathetic man.
This presumption that you hear consistently from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris that America is systemically racist. And that, as Joe Biden said, that he believes that law enforcement has an implicit
This is him pretending.
bias
It
against
is.
minorities.
It is. We were built on racism.
Is a great insult to the men and women.
Does he have a fly in his hair?
And I want everyone
He has
to
a
know
fly in
that
his
puts on
hair.
the uniform of law
Oh my
enforcement
God, that's
every day.
amazing.
That President Trump and I
There's a fly on his
stand
head.
with you.
This is a meme.
And it is remarkable that when Senator
There's
Tim
a fly
Scott
on your
tried to
fucking
pass
head,
a
dude.
police reform bill,
I
brought
hope
together
it
a group of
stays.
Republicans and Democrats, Senator Harris, you got up and walked out of the room. And then you filibustered Senator Tim Scott's bill on the Senate
look at
floor
the
that would
fly on
have
his
provided new
hair.
accountability, new resources. But we don't have to choose between supporting law enforcement, improving public safety, and supporting our African American
You got a fly.
Thank you,
neighbors
Vice
and
President.
all of our minorities. Under President Trump's leadership,
Thank you,
we'll
Vice President.
always
I
stand
hope
with law
nobody tells
enforcement and we'll do what we've done
Vice
from
President
day
Pence,
one, and
thank
that is
you. Your
improve
Yep,
the
time's
lives
up,
of
bud.
African
Time's up.
Americans.
You got a fly in your
Thank you,
head.
Vice
Record
President
unemployment,
Time's up. You got a
record
fly in your head,
investments in
bud.
Your time
education,
is
and we'll
up.
fight
Time's
for
up.
school
Time's up.
choice for all of our
Thank
Time's
you,
up.
Vice
Fly on your head.
Senator Harris.
I will not sit here and be lectured by the Vice President on what it means to enforce the laws of our country. I am the only one on this stage who has personally prosecuted everything from child sexual assault to homicide. I'm the only one on this stage who has prosecuted the big banks for taking advantage of America's homeowners. I'm the only one on this stage who prosecuted for-profit colleges for taking advantage of our
I
veterans.
love the fly on his head.
And the reality of this
Oh my God.
that we
This
are
is gonna be a
talking
huge
about an
story
election
tomorrow.
in 27 days, where last week the President of the United States took a
Thank you,
debate
Fly.
stage in front of 70 million Americans and refused to condemn white supremacists.
Not true.
And
Absolutely true.
it wasn't like he didn't have a chance. He didn't do it, and then he doubled down. And then he said, when pressed, stand back, stand by. And this is a part of a pattern of Donald Trump's. He called Mexicans.
Is it gone?
racists
Oh, it
and
flew away.
criminals.
Aww.
He instituted as his first act a Muslim ban. He, on the issue of Charlottesville, where people were peacefully protesting, the need for racial justice, where a young woman was killed. And on the other side, there were neo-Nazis carrying tiki torches, shouting racial epithets, anti-Semitic slurs. And Donald Trump, when asked about it, said there were fine people on both sides. This is who we have as the President of the United States. And America, you deserve better. Joe Biden will be a president who brings our country together.
Senator Harris,
and recognizes the beauty in our diversity and the fact that we
Senator
all
Harris,
have so much more in common than what separates us.
Vice President Pence, let me give you a minute to respond.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate that very much. You know, I think this is one of the things that makes people dislike the media so much in this country, Susan, is that you selectively edit, just like Senator Harris did, comments that President Trump and I and others on our side of the aisle make. I mean, Senator Harris conveniently omitted, after the president made comments about people on either side of the debate over monuments, he condemned the KKK, neo-Nazis, and white supremacists, and has done so repeatedly.
Cheap talk.
You're concerned that he doesn't condemn neo-Nazis. President Trump has Jewish grandchildren. His daughter and son-in-law are Jewish. This is a president who respects and cherishes all of the American people. But you talk about having personally prosecuted. I'm glad you brought up your...
Yeah, he respects everybody. Sure he does.
I really need to make this point. When you were DA in San Francisco, when you left office, African Americans were 19 times more likely to be prosecuted for minor drug offenses than whites and Hispanics. When you were Attorney General of California,
yep, time's up, old man. Time's up, flyface.
Disproportionate incarceration.
Time's up, flyhead.
In California.
Time's up, puppet boy.
Justice reform
Time's up, flyman.
You didn't lift a finger to pass
Time's
the
up.
First Step Back on Capitol
Time's
Hill.
up, flyman.
I mean, the reality is,
okay,
your
flyboy.
record speaks for itself.
Okay, there, puppet flyboy.
Fought for criminal justice reform.
Thank you, Vice President.
Fought for educational choice and opportunities for African Americans, all of our
Thank you,
materials.
sir.
And we'll do it before.
Thank you. You know, there is
Can we
no
zap
more
them when they
important
keep going? I
issue
just want-
than the final issue that we're going to talk about tonight, and that is the issue of the election itself.
Susan, he attacked my record. I would like an opportunity to respond.
Let me give you 30 seconds because we're running out of time.
I appreciate that. First of all, having served as the Attorney General of the state of California, the work that I did is a model of what our nation needs to do, and we will be able to do under a Joe Biden presidency. Our agenda includes what this administration has failed.
She's going to be president.
It will be
This
about
is-
not
she is
only instituting
crushing
a ban
this.
on chokeholds and carotid holds.
She could
not
be
only-
president.
Thank you, Senator.
I
would
think
like to go
everybody's
through-
watching
These
this
are
thinks
points that
that.
you made earlier in the hour, and I want to talk about the election itself before we have to.
But I want to talk about the connection between what Joe and I will do and my record, which includes I was the first statewide officer to institute a requirement that my agents would wear body cameras and keep them on full time. We were the first to initiate a requirement that there would be a training for law enforcement on implicit bias because, yes, Joe Biden and I recognize that implicit bias does exist, Mr. Vice President, contrary to what you may believe. We did the work of instituting reforms that were about investing in reentry. This is the work that we have done and the work we will do going forward.
On some
And
level,
again,
I
will
respect
not be
Kamala.
lectured by the
Just
Vice President
on some level.
on
She's
our
got a
record
pair. She's
of
really
what we
swinging
have
for
done
the
in terms
fences,
of
and I
law
love it.
enforcement and keeping our communities safe and a commitment to reforming the criminal justice system of America.
Thank you, Senator Harris. And I'd like to pose
That was progressive.
I'd like you to respond first to the question on our final topic, the election itself. President Trump has several times refused to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election. If your ticket wins and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what steps would you and Vice President Biden then take? What would happen next? You have 2 minutes.
So I'll tell you, Joe and I are, I think, particularly proud of the coalition that we've built around our campaign. We probably have one of the broadest coalitions of folks that you've ever seen in a presidential race. Of course, we have the support of Democrats, but also independents and Republicans. In fact, 7 members of President George W. Bush's cabinet are supporting our ticket. We have the support of Colin Powell, Cindy McCain, John Kasich, over 500 generals, retired generals, and
All
former
these people
national
are
security
so
experts
bad.
and advisors are supporting our campaign.
Ugh.
And I believe they are doing that because they know
Answer the question.
that Joe Biden has a deep, deep-seated commitment to fight for our democracy and to fight for the integrity of our democracy and to bring integrity back to the White House. And so we believe in the American people. We believe in our democracy. And here's what I'd like to say to everybody. Vote. Please vote. Vote early.
It's a weak
Come up with
sauce
a plan to
answer.
vote. Go
You're
to
not answering the question,
iwillvote.com. You
Kamala.
can also go to joebiden.com. We have it within our power in these next 27 days to make the decision about what will be the course of our country for the next 4 years. And it is within our power, and if we use our vote and we use our voice, we will win. And we will not let anyone subvert our democracy
She is
with
ducking.
what Donald Trump has been doing, as he did on the
I
debate
hate when they
stage
do
last
this.
week,
Answer the damn question.
when again in front of 70 million people, he openly attempted to suppress the vote. Joe Biden, on the other hand, on that same debate stage, because clearly Donald Trump doesn't think he can run on a record because it's a failed record, Joe Biden on that stage said, hey, just please vote. So I'll repeat what Joe said. Please vote.
Thank you, Senator. Vice President Pence, President Trump has several times refused to commit himself to a peaceful transfer of power after the election. If Vice President Biden is declared the winner and President Trump refuses to accept a peaceful transfer of power, what would be your role and responsibility as Vice President? What would you personally?
Wow.
You have 2 minutes.
Well, Susan, first and foremost, I think we're going to win this election. Because while Joe Biden
You're going to duck this
a
question.
long litany of the establishment in Washington, D.C., an establishment that Joe Biden's been a part of for 47 years, President Donald Trump has launched a movement of everyday Americans from every walk of life. And I have every confidence that those same Americans that delivered that historic victory in 2016.
We don't feel you're so fake,
where
dude.
we rebuild our military.
Mike Pence is such
we
a fraud.
Our economy through tax cuts and
this guy
back
can never be
regulation,
allowed to be
fighting
president.
for fair trade, unleashing American energy. We appointed conservatives to our federal courts at every level. And we stood with the men and women of law enforcement every single day. And I think that movement of Americans has only grown stronger in the last 4 years. When you talk about accepting the outcome of the election, I must tell you, Senator, your party has spent the last 3.5 years trying to overturn the results of the last election. It's amazing. When Joe Biden was vice president of the United States, the FBI actually spied on President Trump and my campaign. I mean, there were documents released this week that the CIA
They spy on everybody, dipshit.
To the FBI documenting that
I get spied on.
allegations were coming from the Hillary Clinton.
We're all getting spied on.
We've all seen the
what a fraud.
What you put the country through for the better part of 3.
This guy wants complicity. He wants y'all to just shut up and fall in line. And that's basically what he's saying, because he's like, how dare you oppose us? Why didn't you just stand with us the whole time? Because they're another party, you fascist.
Years. Until it was found that there was no obstruction, no collusion, case closed. And then Senator Harris, you
case closed, yeah, okay.
In the Congress, tried to impeach the President of the United States over a phone call. And now Hillary Clinton has actually said to Joe Biden that in her words, under no circumstances should he concede the election. So
she needs to shut up and go away forever.
President Trump and I are fighting every day in courthouses to prevent Joe Biden and Kamala Harris from changing the rules and creating this universal mail-in voting that will create a massive opportunity for voter fraud. And we have a free and fair election. We know we're going to have confidence in it. And I believe in all my heart that President Donald Trump's going to be reelected for 4 more years.
You know, I've written all the questions that I've asked tonight, but for the final question of the debate, I'd like to read a question that someone else wrote. The Utah Debate Commission asked students in the state to write essays about what they would like to ask you. And I want to close tonight's debate with the question posed by Brecklin Brown. She's an 8th grader at Springville Junior High in Springville, Utah. And here's what she wrote, quote, "When I watch the news, all I see is arguing between Democrats and Republicans. When I watch the news, all I see is citizen fighting against citizen. When I watch the news, all I see are 2 candidates from opposing parties
trying to tear each other down. If our leaders can't get along, how are the citizens supposed to get along? And then she added, your examples could make all the difference to bring us together, end quote. So to each of you in turn, I'd like you to take 1 minute and respond to Brecklin. Vice President Pence, you have 1 minute.
Brecklin, it's a wonderful question. And let me just commend you for taking an interest in public life. I started following the news when I was very young. And in America, we believe in a free and open exchange of debate.
That's why President Trump did not follow the rules of the debate.
And it's how we've created literally the freest and most prosperous nation in the history of the world. I would tell you that don't assume that what you're seeing on your local news networks is synonymous with the American people. You know, I look at the relationship between Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, the late justice who we just lost from the Supreme Court, and the late Justice Antonin
All this guy
Scalia.
is doing is covering up for the
They were on
division that
polar
Donald Trump has
opposites
caused
on the
over the
Supreme
course
Court
of the
of the
last
United
4
States.
years.
One
He
very
insults
liberal,
people
one
from
very
Twitter.
conservative.
He
But what's been
refuses
learned
to
since her
really
passing is
be
the two of them
bipartisan. He
and their
refuses
families
to help
were very
anything
close
or
as
do
friends.
anything to really,
I mean,
you know,
here in
heal the
America, we
wounds.
can disagree.
That's
We can
president.
debate
That's the
vigorously,
president's
as Senator Harris
responsibility, and
and I
all
have
this
on the
asshole is
stage
going to
tonight.
do is cover up
When the
for
debate is over,
Trump doing
come
that
together as
on behalf
one.
of Big Pharma, on
That's
behalf of
what
big
people do
fossil
in
fuel,
big
on
cities and
behalf of
small
big
towns all
business,
across
Wall
this country.
Street,
So
and
I
Israel.
just want to
You're a
encourage you.
fraud, Mike
I
Pence,
tell
and you
you,
deserve to be shut down forever.
We're going to work every day to have government as good as our people. And the American people each and every day love a good debate. We love a good argument. But we always come together and are always there for one another.
Time's
in
up,
times
buddy.
of need. And
Time
we've
is
especially
up.
learned that
Nobody
through
cares.
the difficulties of this year.
Senator Harris, what would you say to Brecklin?
First of all, I love hearing from our young leaders. And when I hear her words, when I hear your words, Brecklin, I know our future is bright because it is that perspective on who we are and who we should be that is a sign of leadership and is something we should all aspire to be. And that, you know, that brings me to Joe. Joe Biden, one of the reasons that Joe decided to run for president is after Charlottesville, which we talked about earlier. It so troubled him and upset him like it did all of us, that there was that kind of hate and division. What propelled Joe to run for president was to see that over the course of the last 4 years, what Brecklin described has been happening. Joe has a long-standing reputation of working across the aisle and working in a bipartisan way. And that's what he's going to do as president. Joe Biden has a history of lifting people up and fighting for their dignity. I mean, you have to know Joe's story to know that Joe has known pain, he has known suffering, and he has known love. And so, Brecklin, when you think about the future, I do believe the future is bright. And it will be because of your leadership. And it will be because we fight for each person's voice through their vote. And we get engaged in this election because you have the ability through your work and through eventually your vote to determine the future of our country and what its leadership looks like.
Thank you, Senator Harris. Thank you, Vice President Pence. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. We want to thank also the University of Utah for its hospitality.
Right.
And most of all, our thanks to all the...
Okay. Wow. Wow. Let's do a little recap, and I'm going to leave this national debt ticker going while we hide that, and we're going to leave this up. So, would you look at that? Look at that. $27 trillion. 23 billion. God knows how many millions this went up while we were in there. I mean, look how fast it goes up a million. It's about to hit 24 billion. Here we go. Let's just watch it together, right? You can watch the collapse of the U.S. economy in real time. This will be interesting. 27,024 coming up. Here we go. And there it is. Boom. 24 billion. So financial mismanagement. What I hear is a whole bunch of lies from the Republicans, some easy cover-ups and corporate pandering from the left, But I heard a very progressive platform put forth by Kamala there. She really pushed against his, conservative Christian, protection of the fossil fuels and the failures in coronavirus. So, I would say overall she did an amazing job. I'm impressed on some level. There's obviously things that need to be addressed that we would continue to address in a Kamala, Joe Biden administration. But overall, she did way better than he did because he is just so fake and so full of crap that it's disturbing. It's really disturbing, actually. It's nauseating to watch him speak. Like, it's hard to watch him talk. Especially when they pretend like we're doing so well. Like, we're not doing well. But I want the real opposition party to address this. They don't want to address this. They want to pretend like this isn't real. This is real, okay? And we've got to address it. And we're losing. Our money is evaporating. We don't have any value left in the dollar. We have no respect around the world because of the failures of these two parties. And at the end of the day, guys, this is a nightmare right here. I mean, just look at it. 27 trillion. It's gone up just since we started watching it, $5 million. And it's just a couple minutes. But yet, greatest economy ever, make America great again. Yeah, we're doing so well, Donald Trump. This is about almost $10 trillion higher than it was when he came into power 4 years ago. Now, Obama, for all his failings, he definitely handed Trump a huge national debt. And Trump just increased it dramatically, which is one of the ways in which these parties are really all on the same side, because they always increase the debt. They never really address what needs to be addressed in order for the debt to actually start going down. They're not going to do it. That means the international American military empire needs to come home. We got to scale down. It's time to scale down. Shut down the bases. Shut down. Bring everybody home. No more global empire because we can't afford it. Clearly, we cannot afford it. So enough is enough, okay? End the war on terror. End the war on drugs, okay? Begin to address the problems inherent in them with more compassion and with more financial logic, because the way that this is being managed, or mismanaged rather, is pathetic. It's pathetic. And we're supposed to take financial advice from this? Leadership advice from these people? No, don't do that. Be vigilant, stay aware, stay on top of the information, and do not listen to these corporate puppets. At the end of the day, yes, I believe that the blue team did a little bit better than the red team, but that's always how I am because I'm an independent progressive. I'm moving as far to the left and as far into the future as I can go, because that's the nature of American democracy. Liberals brought us the right to vote for African Americans. Liberals brought us the 8-hour workday and the 5-day work week. Liberals brought us suffrage for women. Liberals brought us a number of things, the end of the Vietnam War, and on and on and on. So you want to pretend like liberals are demons? That's your gig, but guess what? They're not. And there's a legacy that we should be reclaiming as liberals in order to really stand up to this fascism, because they want to just pretend like we're just demons and terrorists and liars and, MS-13 and Chinese puppets and all this other crap. At the end of the day, yes, both parties are controlled corporate puppets, and that's why I'm running, not as a Democrat, but as an independent. But please vote. Please vote. Get out and vote, because this shit is bad, okay? It's really bad. Look at those numbers. I'm going to keep pointing at it as long as I'm here. Look at the numbers. It's bad. It's as bad as it's ever been in any country since the beginning of time. That's the worst national debt in the history of Earth. And we're supposed to listen to these idiots. Stay vigilant. Stay up. Stay powerful. Vote. But more than vote, stay peaceful and stay on top of the issues, okay? That means don't just read corporate media. That means that you need to do more research. That means you need to look into the money behind the vaccines, the money behind Trump, the money behind Israel, the money behind both parties. Stay vigilant. Do the real research. And don't just sit there and buy everything you're fed, because that's what slaves do. And you're not a slave, are you? No, you're not. Peace.